Welcome to the Queer Love Podcast, the silly and serious shenanigans of two queer relationship coaches. I am your host, Elizabeth Cunningham.
And I'm your host, Lee Greeps.
On this podcast, we talk about how to live your best queer life with fulfilling, healthy relationships and anything else that makes your little queer heart happy. Because living your life outside of the heteronormative scripts is totally possible for you.
Each episode, we explore all things queer love from our professional perspective as relationship coaches, our own personal experiences, and as partners.
If you love our show, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter at Queer Love Relationships. You can also check out our website, www.queerloverelationships.com.
Thanks for following us and enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Queer Love Podcast.
Woo, 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 woo. I was drinking tea.
All right, the enthusiasm of the tea. Oh, what are we talking about today?
Feedback.
Indeed.
Feedback in relationships. Giving and hearing said feedback. And doing it in a nice way.
In a kind way.
In a nice, kind way.
Yeah.
Not in a way that leads to altercations.
Mm-hmm.
Or more dysfunction.
Yes.
Or more misunderstanding.
Yeah. I think it would be helpful to talk about how we can, like, what ways are unhealthy first. And then kind of go into the healthy. So it's like, where can you get tripped up in either...
If you blame people.
There you go. That is a big one.
If you yell at someone.
Yes.
If your tone is unkind.
That's true. So we're starting with giving feedback.
Criticizing. I was going about feedback in general. What can be not great?
Yeah.
Criticism, blame. The tone. You're yelling. So the volume.
Yeah, volume. Could also be your, physicalness.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say? Body posture.
Yeah. Also just the timing. Like
timing, that
someone
is
just
true.
walked through the door after working, or you just walk through the door and then you're instantly like, you never cleaned the kitchen. That is feedback. Is it great feedback? No. But it's feedback. And also not an ideal time to do it also.
Right.
So, timing.
Yeah.
Also, like, if you're literally pushing at the triggers, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I did a seminar once, and I'll never forget this because it was just like so appropriate for talking to humans. But they were like, you know how you know your partner's buttons? Mm-hmm. And then everybody's like, yeah, I know my partner's buttons. And then he was like, and you know how even though you know your partner's buttons, you push your partner's buttons?
No, for sure. I mean, it's like the thing, it's, there's a, I forgot how she says it, but she's a therapist, like a counselor between like couples or whatever. But she was like, yeah, like those things that are vulnerable in the way of like understanding the triggers or the patterns or the things of why that gets to this person because of, you know, how they were raised and whatnot. Yeah. It's like all of that should never be brought up in the context of like weaponizing it, right?
Right.
And it's like,
don't weaponize things.
Yeah, don't weaponize.
That's
like,
the umbrella.
It's like, you know, if you're like, oh yeah, see, this is why, you know, your dad's so disappointed in you. Like, you know, like something like, which people say that to each other.
Which people do say that to each other.
But, you know, those kinds of things where it's like, oh yeah, because you have a big wound around, you know, your dad being disappointed in you, whatever it is. And like your partner knows this because you've shared all these things. And, you know, in that heated moment, it's like that, you know, those kinds of things where it's like, those are off the table. Like, do not ever bring that in that way. Right.
Yeah, totally. And or even, you know, if they're like past relationship trauma and your partner's like, oh, my, you know, I had a unhealthy relationship in my past, and they would always say this thing to me. Like they would always say that it was, you know, disgusting that I did this, and they always like put me down for this thing. And so, like, you knowing that, and then maybe they do that thing, and you're like, oh, well, maybe your partner was right. Like, that is disgusting. You know, like, yeah, what I know. Lee, you poor soul. For those people, for those listening to the podcast and not watching the YouTube video, which, by the way, we are on YouTube now. We said that forever, like, watch the YouTube video, and we didn't put it on YouTube, but now it's on YouTube. Side note, but you can see that just like hit Lee right in the heart.
I just don't deal with unkindness very well.
You don't. You do not.
No.
I think of all things to not deal with very well, unkindness is a good one. You know?
Yeah. No.
Just like it does.
That's always how I've been too. You know? It's just I'm a sensitive little baby.
Yeah. Well, I feel like one of the reasons why both of us got even into this line of work is because we both have one of the reasons why I'm a coach and relationship coach is because I'm just like, can we just be nice to each other? Can we just be kind? Just be kind. Just be kind. Just be loving. Like, why are we choosing to, you know, be this way to each other? Going back to ways that you can
unhealthy ways
of giving
navigating feedback.
Yeah. So using words or triggers or past hurts as ways to press someone's buttons intentionally, like, and if you're being really honest with yourself, you are doing it to hurt them. You know, like, you are doing it to, you know, weaponize that thing.
Yeah.
And so part of it is also making a promise to yourself that you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
You know,
and that also goes in line with like receiving feedback too, because you know, you could say something to me that you're offering feedback and it was fine, right? Like, you know, whatever it is, but then just because of me just being like, you know what, blah blah blah, your dad's disappointment. You know, like, it can easily be whether it started in the giver position or not. Like, it's like, you know, receiving feedback can also look in an unhealthy way, can look like weaponizing something against the other person too.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to timing, kind of and this is not just with timing, but like not getting the consent of the other person to offer feedback. So just kind of like diving into a conversation about, you know, whatever it is that you're wanting to give feedback about, or whatever it is that is like bothering you or whatever, without consulting with your partner first and saying like, hey, like, I have something that might be a little bit heavy, or I have something that's on my mind, or I'm actually kind of frustrated with something right now and I'd really like to talk to you about it. Like, are you open to that? Are you available for this conversation right now? So doing it in an unhealthy way would also look like, you know, not getting consent to have the conversation too. But also on the flip side of that, you know, because anything can get weaponized, by the way. But on the flip side of that, if you are the receiver, just like never consenting so that you just keep putting off, just like, no, we can't talk about it. No, we can't talk about it. No, we can't talk about it. No, we can't. And like, and then at a certain point, it's just like, okay, at some point, like, even if we can't find the perfect circumstances to have this conversation, we need to have this conversation. Right. Like, yeah. Like, I need to talk to you about this.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one.
Well, I've seen that happen.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like, all these things happen. It's just always funny to be like, oh yeah, I guess people do that too.
Yep, people do that. It's true. It's just like, no, you can't do it because I'm not consenting to do it. And using that as like the weapon instead.
Yeah. You're like, well, don't need your consent to walk out this door.
Oh man, are we gonna get real honest today?
It's just like, if there's someone that's like, you're just like, hey, I want to give you this or like want to talk about this thing with someone, and they're just like,
Yeah.
nope, no, 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 no. I'd be like, okay, what? Like, first, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But apparently we can't talk about it, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that.
Well, and and I think one thing inside of healthy feedback is understanding intention versus impact. And an unhealthy feedback would be not understanding intention versus impact. And I think that there is a place for, because, a lot of people are like, oh, well, impact is more important than intention. I don't think that that's a blanket statement across the board. I don't actually believe that personally. I think that there are times where intention is just as important and possibly even more important than impact is. But not understanding that, or what am I trying to say? Like, if in an unhealthy situation, if the impact is greater than the intention, but then the person who gave the feedback is trying to just rely on the intention without acknowledging the impact, then that would be an unhealthy way of either giving that feedback and also cleaning up, whatever was caused because of that feedback too.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man, there's so much in that.
I know.
Well, because I'm like, someone can. Intention is so flimsy, because it's coming from the person, right? And so it's like, and depending on the person, it's like there could be like my intent. I'm just thinking of people where it's like they're very controlling, so their intention is, they're made like, my intention is to help you. Right, like that's what they're saying, right? Like my intention, but it's like more of they're just trying to control, but it's like if they say, hey, my intention is to help you, and then you're just like, oh, well, they're trying to help me, even though like the impact was really bad, but it's like, oh, but their intention was this, and they're thinking this is my intention, right? Like that's where I'm like, that is so flimsy, but that's why I'm like, I think it all matters.
It all matters.
Like I think that's where I just be like, it all matters. And then like for you to be like, what's the pattern here? The pattern is, they say their intention is this, but the impacts keep blowing me down, right? And so it's like they're not being intentional about like my care in the process too, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, that brings in like patterns and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and also the other part of that too is that context is decisive. We're talking very theoretically right now.
No, for sure.
And so like, yeah, you could apply that individually, case by case, to different relationships and then different scenarios in each relationship, and you would come up with a different outcome. Right. And I guess as you were sharing that, I was recognizing that, in coming into this podcast, I am talking about recognizing healthy versus unhealthy feedback in already healthy relationships. Like, was my context for this?
Going Wild West.
I know. I heard it. Where it's like, your context was in healthy or unhealthy or abusive relationships. Yeah, went there. All right.
I'll leave the door open.
There you go.
What we're talking about. And
there
then
you go.
See, that's what I always do. I start off broad and then I funnel in.
Yeah.
That's just how my mind works. It goes broad and then it comes in,
Yeah.
No. Which helps me to see bigger pictures and problems.
And you are really good at that. You are extremely good at that.
But then it also confuses people in what I'm talking about.
Well, I wasn't confused. I was just...
No, not in that instance.
Yeah.
In general.
I got you. But anyways, that's what I heard in what you shared. What I heard was, I had the context of healthy relationships and you had a context of any and all relationships.
Well, I guess we're talking about healthy relationships. Already healthy relationships.
Well, because I feel like it's a different conversation when you add like abusive relationships into it. That's like a whole other thing.
For sure.
Yeah. So if we're trying to talk about all of it at the same time, that can be really overwhelming.
Well, now the people know, and I know. I am included in the people.
go. And that's also one way to receive feedback is context clues. Like, feedback.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, episode over. We told you what not to do. You figure out what to do.
Well, I don't even know if we even said what not to do. We were just giving examples of unhealthy.
No, do not blame. Do not be unkind.
Do not blame. Do not be unkind. Well, I think also, well, maybe that's inside of what to do. So maybe pause on that. Anything else inside of like what unhealthy feedback can look like as well?
I think also I think it's would come up easily in the what to do, but it's in the sense of like not checking understanding, or like checking like what the other person heard and all that, like where you're just like, okay, anyway, then we just keep going, whereas like maybe
making assumptions.
Yeah, making assumptions, or you just are like, okay, I said the thing, but it's like, did they actually understand? Or like they said the thing, but I didn't really get it, but also I didn't want to make them more mad, so I didn't ask questions. And so I'm just going to go with it and see what happens, right? Because whatever. And so I think just that piece, too, of like having kind of a completion circle conversation on it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and the two things that came up for me when you said that was, number one, that when we say unhealthy, also we don't mean bad or that you are bad.
No.
Right? Like we all have unhealthy behaviors and we're never not going to have unhealthy behaviors. Like we are imperfect human beings, like, but what we can do is learn and do better. Right? So this is not, as you may be taking this as feedback for yourself. Feedback all around. This is not to say that you are bad or that you are wrong. It's just to distinguish and have you get curious about like, oh, what are some like unhealthy things that I might do that I could then improve upon. Right? And the other part was unhealthy, not good or bad. What was the thing that you just said?
Checking understanding.
Checking understanding, not making assumptions.
Completion conversation.
Oh, okay, thank you. The other thing was that you're like inside of like not blaming yourself for unhealthy things that you do. Again, just like getting curious and noticing, because a lot of our unhealthy behavior comes from how we have learned how to behave, comes from trauma responses, comes from like patterns that we've seen in the past. Like we're like, oh, I had this past relationship where every time I tried to, ask more questions, my partner would get upset with me. And so now in this relationship, it might be really challenging for you to ask more questions or get curious about things, right? So again, like unhealthy behaviors do not mean that you are bad. It just means that you are having a human experience and things have happened in your life that have, produced this type of result for you, right? And so again, just like noticing these things about yourself and not blaming yourself or not shaming yourself for having any of these behaviors.
Yeah, and I think also in that too, it changes like what is healthier versus unhealthy, like in a relationship. And not saying like, oh, this will always be unhealthy or something in that way, but it's like, and also what is healthy for you as an individual in a relationship will change too. And so, I think it's like a little tricky thing to navigate, but I'm just thinking about it in the context of like, maybe in a relationship that you were in previously, like the healthy way of going about feedback was, being very direct, right? And it was very like direct, stoic kind of thing, versus like in this relationship that you're in now, that doesn't, like, that's not a healthy way of going about it if they're, in to make it a healthy dynamic, right?
Right.
Or like vice versa, where it's like you used to do really well with like getting direct feedback, and now it's like I need this kind of way about it. Like it's like I'm open to feedback, but I need this other way of going about it, right? And it's like thinking about like what is healthy for you, eating wise will change over time too. Or depending on which context of, like, in Europe I can eat bread. Bread's way like that works for me. But here, absolutely not. American bread sucks. And so it's like, because it's how it's processed, right? And so it's like, it's the same item. It's bread. But very different, and different health consequences. And so it's like that kind of same thing in relationships.
Yeah, and it can also be different at different times in the same relationship.
Right.
Too.
Going with the changes of individuals.
right, exactly. Like, for example, Lee and I are very, like, teasy, fun, like, playful, can be, like, sarcastic with each other. But there's been, times in our relationship where one or both of us is more sensitive for whatever reason, or whatever the teasy joke is actually pokes at a wound, that we have. And the way that we normally are with each other doesn't work in that context, in that scenario. And so the other thing too is, like, inside of, not blaming yourself, it's also not expecting yourself to be perfect either. And to get, sometimes how you're going to get feedback is by doing something that doesn't work, right? Like, sometimes how you're going to learn, a lot of times how you're going to learn is by doing something that doesn't work. And so not expecting yourself to be perfect, and understanding that, sometimes you might hurt the people that you love, even if it is unintentional. And so a lot of what we're talking about, again, is not to be perfect, but it's also to understand what you're doing, the impact of what you're doing, and also the ability to repair and do better. Again, I'm just gonna keep sharing that over and over again. Like, this is not about getting it right first. This is sometimes it's about, like, understanding what you did that didn't work, and then being able to repair that in a way that actually does work, right? So that you can do better. Anything else inside of, we could keep talking about how feedback is unhealthy for a while, but anything else that, like, stands out to you?
No.
Oh, one inside of because we have been talking more about, like, in giving feedback. So unhealthy ways to receive feedback would be to take it personally, or to take it out of context, or to assume malintent of your partner. Again, different contexts, but also, if you have to assume malintent of your partner, I think there's bigger issues going on in your relationship. But if you are in a healthy relationship, I think generally assuming good intent of your partner is good. Or is healthy. And then if they're saying something to you, even if it does sting, like, assuming that good intent and then getting curious. So, like, an unhealthy way to receive feedback would be that if you do feel a sting with it, if there is some hurt there, to automatically assume that it was given with bad intent, they were trying to hurt you, taking it personally, and not getting curious about, like, what happened there. Yeah. So going with your stories instead of, like, actually seeing, like, out here in reality if that was true. Yeah. So, or like we all listen to each other through filters.
Yeah.
Like if you have, if you do have, that past history, whether it be with this person or not, you can listen to people through filters of like, when people give feedback, that means that they're mad at me. And that's usually like an unconscious thing that we do. But also recognizing like, how do I listen to people? Like what assumptions do I make about the people or situations in which I am receiving feedback? Am I listening through the filter of I'm in trouble? Am I listening through the filter of, this person hates me now? Am I listening through the filter of like, this is going to ruin the rest of our day? Like what are the preconceived notions, assumptions, stories, filters?
Yeah, it's just also just like, what's your relationship to feedback?
Yeah, what's your relationship to feedback? Yeah.
Like even just the word feedback could like bring up a lot, versus like, oh, like I do better with a different kind of word, in that sense too. But yeah, I mean, it's just more of like, okay, yeah, how was all that experience growing up in the different contexts of your life and also in different relationships and everything. Because yeah, that'll just be like, oh yeah, this is why I interact with feedback in this way.
Yeah. So if feedback,
and also talk about that with your partner.
Yeah, totally. So if feedback, for example, always makes you defensive, that would be another like unhealthy reaction to feedback, would be to like automatically get defensive. And if that's what happens every time that you are given feedback, then getting curious about that, like, like why does feedback always make me defensive?
Yeah. And it's just like, oh, what would help me lower the defense? And it's like, oh yeah, well, if my dad always came at me, with feedback, I understand why I'm defensive.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, but if it'd be different if someone was like, hey, I really want to talk to you about this situation the other day. When can we do that? That kind of thing. And then talking about like, this didn't work. Like, it's a completely different experience, right? And so it's like, oh yeah, to understand what could help lower that, also knowing that will take time as well.
Yeah. Anything else?
On what? Unhealthy things?
On unhealthy.
Oh, no.
Giving or receiving.
No.
I said all the stuff that was there for me. All right, so healthy. What can you do?
Opposite of everything we just said.
Okay, period. Done.
There
Complete.
we go. Kind. I do think, a healthy way of going about feedback is to talk to your partner. Like, if you're in a relationship, obviously you can talk. That's all. I've always had that from managers and stuff, but I've always had great managers, which is nice. But they talk about like, hey, like, how do you like to receive feedback, right? And it's like, how do you like to give feedback? All that kind of stuff. Like, it's just talk to the person about that. Like, just overarching. What's feedback like for you? What works best in that way? What what can we create in that sense? Or and to talk about like, how does your relationship to feedback work with my relationship to feedback? And then being able to move on from there, right? Because it's like, it also depends on each different context too. Like like I know in like workplace situations and stuff, like as long as it's still being done kindly, which is always, from my managers has always been very kind, but like being very direct and maybe a little bit more blunt can still work for me because they're still being kind and like empathetic towards me, right? Versus in a different situation where it's like, and it also depends on the person it's coming from, like, in terms of like their identity and like how they move about the world. And so it's like, I know they're all different. So it's like in each relationship, I need to address that. Where it's like, oh no, this dynamic though, I need a lot softer. I need a lot more advance notice. Versus in this other one, you can just tell me right there in the moment and it's fine. And so like really also allowing yourself to not to have that blanket kind of understanding of this is how feedback works for me always, which is a healthy way to go about it, of talking in each of these relationships.
Yeah. One thing that I really love in creating a healthier dynamic for feedback is the setting of an intention. And again, like that's not to like mitigate impact, but setting the intention for yourself, like who do you want to be in giving feedback to your partner? Like, and so if you're like, oh, I want to be kind and loving, I want to be compassionate, I want to be curious, then when you are faced with a situation where you want to give your partner feedback, then asking yourself the question, if I were being kind and loving, then how would I deliver this feedback to my partner specifically? Like Lee said, like that's going to look different for every single person. And so like how delivering kind and loving feedback to Lee is going to look different than delivering kind and loving feedback to Alec in my world, right? So that's going to look differently even though I'm asking myself the same question. And so setting that intention for myself and then also considering the person and the context of the situation, then that can be really helpful for me in navigating and making sure that I'm doing the best I can to give feedback in a kind and loving way. And then like Lee was saying, kind of the opposite of what we were just sharing earlier. So getting their consent, like considering the timing of it, like, oh, they just had a hard day, or they just got off of a stressful call, or like they told me earlier that they're experiencing a lot of anxiety currently, like just taking those things into consideration, and just in not saying that you can't like approach someone, but approaching with that in mind, and maybe saying something like, hey, I know that you've been really anxious today, and maybe even there's you set it aside for another day where it's just like, okay, I'm gonna bring this up tomorrow. Or again, you can survey your surroundings and see what works, because maybe it's something where it's like, okay, I know that they're anxious, but also like we need to talk about this by tonight for whatever reason. And so maybe saying that, like, hey, I know that you're really anxious, but I really needed to talk to you about this, like, before tonight. And so like, could we have this conversation right now? Or like, what would help you in like being able to talk about this? Where are your limits right now? So just like being, aware of that and approaching it in that way. Yeah. Also recognizing your own body language and your own tone. Tone for me was something that has been challenging for me in the past. For a really long time, I didn't realize that I had a harsher tone than I thought, until I got that feedback from people. And that was like in my mid-20s and mid to late 20s when I got that feedback from a couple different people that were like, oh, well, when you share or when you share this, or when I think that you're going to be this way, or blah, 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 like basically people indicating that like I had a really harsh tone, which I literally didn't know. Like I was unaware that my tone was that was not my intention. Yeah. That's not what I was trying to do. And so that's been something that's really challenging for me, because again, I didn't realize that that's how my tone was coming across. And so I've had to learn how to manage my tone. And that is a work in progress for sure. Sometimes how you can manage your tone is by saying, like, acknowledging that, like, hey, I know that in the past my tone has come across harsh in these conversations, and if it comes across that way today, I'm sorry. I'm working on it, but I'm having a hard time with that, and I want you to know that like my intention is that I'm trying to be to be kind about this, and meaning that, obviously, like saying that genuinely, like not being like, oh well, I'm trying to be nice, like as a way to brush aside someone's feedback that you're being harsh, right? So again, everything can be weaponized. But yeah, I just wanted to make that note about tone, and it's also the same with your posture and how you are presenting with your body as well. Sometimes that's something that we just don't even notice. Like we don't notice that we are being more domineering, or we don't notice that we're shying away, or we don't notice that we're like fidgeting a lot, or it's something that we do unconsciously. And so just again, curiosity, like getting curious, like what does my body posture do, like how does that come across to people? And if you're able to ask people in your life that, like, hey, when we've had really hard conversations, like what is my tone like what is my body posture like? And so that can also be a really great way to like get that feedback as well. But yeah. So
that also just comes down to nervous system.
Yeah.
Like you'll do this in that situation, you'll do the other thing in the other situation because of, whatever it is that you're feeling nervous system wise. And so then it's, for you to be like, okay, what about that had me feel shut down? What about that had me feel anxious? What about that had me feel defensive, right? And because it's like that's what's going to be getting into that. But also when bringing that conscious effort, like you were saying, it's like that also helps to work with your nervous system of being like, okay, I feel the need to like, cross my arms and like, appear a lot more like domineering or something. But it's like, oh yeah, I don't need to do that, right? And so it's like being more conscious of like, letting my arms hang down and like open palms, right? And so it's like, because that will indicate to your nervous system like it's okay, right?
Yeah.
So it's just again like, yeah, just being aware of those kinds of things as best as you can, obviously.
Yeah. One thing for me that's been really helpful is noticing my nervous system in those situations, but also being very conscious of my breath. And that's something that I've learned in coaching, but that's like mainly actually what I've learned in doing yoga. Fun fact, I was a yoga teacher for 8 years. Don't really talk about that very much on this podcast, but it's actually really relevant in the work that I do, especially inside of like nervous system regulation and breath for sure. But yeah, like recognizing my breath is something that has helped me a lot. Like if I notice that I'm holding my breath or notice that my breath is shallow, then like starting to be conscious about like taking bigger breaths, which then calms your nervous system down in those moments as well, which is extremely helpful. Yeah. What else is healthy in giving and receiving feedback?
The things I'm thinking of, like, well, I guess that depends on, it's like, yeah, just talking about it with whoever it is, like what works, like, because I'm thinking like, oh, maybe it could help to have like, if you think about like a check-in or something, like a weekly check-in, a monthly check-in, whatever it is, cadence, and again, it depends on each relationship, right? Like maybe with your partner, it's weekly. With your manager, it's every other week. So it's like, but thinking about the cadence or like frequency where again, you can talk about feedback in between those times. But it can also just help to make that like a bit of a practice, like where it's not weird. So it's like, yeah, we always talk about, things of feedback every week anyway. So yeah, this situation midweek and, they're offering me some feedback about something that happened last night. It's not like so jarring in that way where it's like, oh, we don't ever enter this ring of feedback together. And so, thinking about that, because I was just thinking about like, what helps. And it's, I was thinking about in the situation of work where it's like, I'm constantly getting feedback. And so it's not weird. Like when it's like, oh yeah, this other thing, by the way, it's like, I didn't even know that or whatever it is. And it's not something that is foreign to our relationship dynamic. Like it's just embedded in.
Yeah. Yeah. So starting with having conversations of like what works for giving feedback and what doesn't work for giving feedback.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Like how to deliver all of that. I mean, because it's like, sometimes maybe it's not like having a conversation like face to face about it, right? Like maybe it's like, maybe it's texting, maybe like, there's just so many different ways that you can go about it, or writing about whatever it is. And I think it's just being open to like feedback doesn't have to look in that, structured way where we're sitting at the table and we pull out our reports from the week, and be like, okay, well, on this day you did this thing, so let's talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's just to be able to have that kind of understanding of like how it can work for the two of you. And recognizing that like it's okay, it doesn't have to be that every single time, depending on circumstances, right? But just having that baseline understanding is really helpful.
Yeah definitely. And I think along with that is the continuous like tweaking of that too. And I really like the language of what worked for me and what didn't work for me in giving feedback. So instead of saying like what I liked and what I didn't like, which can be kind of charged or maybe even get into like morality or ethics, it's just like the what worked and what didn't work can take out charge, because it's just like, and it's also like what worked for me and what didn't work for me. So it's not saying that the other person is doing something wrong necessarily, but you're reflecting on your experience and what worked for you and what didn't work for you, right? So it's kind of, it's just a small way that you can make sure that you're not using like blame or fault, and also that the other person, it's an indicator for the other person that you're not using blame or fault in that situation either.
Yeah, also just be like what's helpful and what's not helpful.
What's helpful, what's not helpful.
Or it could be like, no, this is what I like, this is what I didn't like. And people are like, yeah, I like that, I want to do that way. Go for it.
Yeah, no, well, it does.
Very blunt people.
It totally depends on your dynamic, like that's why there's so much language around giving feedback, like what I loved about it, what the opportunity is, what was challenging for me, what went smoothly for me, what I'd love to see more of, what I'd like to see less of. What I'd like to see happen again, what I wouldn't like to have happen again. Like there's so many
pros and grows.
There's so much different language that you can
I don't like
use.
Pros and grows.
I don't like pros and grows either. That's not.
But it really works for some people.
It does.
I'm like, I love it.
It does.
For you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm like, as you're saying all those, I'm like, with feedback from me, I'm like, I just like to know how you felt. It's like, hey, this thing happened. This part of it had me feel sad. Whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, this didn't work because you felt sad, obviously. And then it's just like, oh, well, what about that? How do you feel? Because, you said this way or that way. And like, it would really help me that if you said it this way, or like, or if I'm asking what would help in the future or whatever kind of thing. Like, I'm like, I just want to know how you felt. Like, oh, that thing worked for you. You're like, oh my God, this thing had me feel so grateful. I'm like, oh, that one obviously works. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I like the directness.
You do.
I like the directness of like, this worked for me, this didn't work for me. If you just use your feelings, I'm like, I feel like I have to assume what worked for you and what didn't work for you, and I don't like that. Like, you can tell me how you felt about it, but I also want you to tell me it worked for you. Like, I want to take out all assumptions, 0 assumptions. I'm like, no. Oh, because like, I don't know, sometimes things can like make you sad, but it's just like, it was just that day, or so it's not like, I don't know, there's too much wiggle room I don't like it.
Language emotions are way more clear for me. Or just like putting pictures or like pieces together. Like again, it's like I'm like, oh, putting it all together. Because I was also thinking about it when you were talking about like feedback and stuff. Like it goes, it also goes into, an aspect of this is like how you learn.
Yeah.
And which I think is also woven together with how feedback has been handed to you all your life.
Sure.
Because that's also going to be influenced by that, right? Like, I cannot learn through doing all these things. Like, you do really well at just doing things. And you're like, I'm going to learn from it. Right? Like
I learn really well from doing and failing, like doing and making mistakes. I'm like, oh, that didn't work. Let's try this. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try this.
Yeah, and it's like, and that makes sense in knowing like how your upbringing of like where you had a lot of support from your parents and like they're like, hey, try this thing, look at this thing or whatever.
Yeah, we were very experimental family.
Right.
Like, my dad was a scientist. My mom's an artist. Very experimental.
Yeah.
Very like, let's see what works.
No, exactly. Right. So it's like that checks out, and it's also then going in your natural kind of way of learning too. Like, I mean, all of that's happening around how you learn.
Yeah.
Versus me is not that way at all. Like, absolutely not. It's like you have to gather so much before you take the action, right? Because like that's if I was just doing actions growing up, that'd be bad. And so it's like, okay, I learned with like, oh, I'm putting the pieces together. I'm researching. I'm observing. I'm like, it's like I'm taking all that. Everything is feedback. Right. And it's like, oh, I see how she just got impacted by this thing. And whether it's in my relationship to her or not, like it could be something that's happening at work or with a friend or whatever it is. And I'm like, oh yeah, that didn't work for her. And it's like, and so I'm understanding all of that. And so it's like, that's how I'm learning. And then of course, yeah, like, still making mistakes along the way, like where I'm like, oh, I did this thing. And but there was this other element I didn't have an understanding of because I had no other observation or feedback from other situations with her. Right. So I couldn't understand that. That makes sense. But it's like, but I'm putting it all together. And that's, and that's just how I go about learning in the world in general. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like all of that, just thinking about how you learn and, your relationship to like risk taking, your relationship to like action taking and, gathering, researching, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Right. Because some people are like, fuck research. I don't got time for that. I'm just going to learn right now by barreling through. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. Like I will take all the time in the world to research. And then I'll be like, yes, this is the move, right? And but that works for me more. And of course, everyone's different, right? Like in some situations, you got to slow down and like do more things before you take the action. And same, for me, I wish I could just take research and do all that every time, but sometimes I have to take the action like instantly, and I'm like, I don't like this at all. This feels so impulsive. But it's like, but it is that thing where you have to learn how to navigate those situations differently, right? But it's just thinking about overall, what do you tend to do?
Yeah.
And being able to work with that as well, right? And I mean, I think that's also, I was just thinking about it like for us too, and like giving and receiving feedback, like because you're a lot like, take action, get the feedback, take action, get the feedback, or like something happens, you got impacted, you're like, I'm gonna give you feedback right now, right? And I'm like, whoa, okay. Versus me, I'm like, something happened and I'm like, oh, what was that? Okay, like let's understand it. And I'm like, well, this was going on and da 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 da. And it's now 3 days later. And then I like might bring it up to her and she's like, well, why didn't you tell me that before? And I'm like, I didn't have that before. Like this was 3 days of research and understanding, right? Versus her being like, right now, let's talk about it, because it's like, that's just part of how you work versus part of how I work, which is, it is a funny challenge. And
which we are definitely still getting used to, for sure.
No, I mean, there's all kinds of things, and it's just like, I mean, for me, it feels really weird to bring anything up later on because I'm like, it's probably gone past its expiration date, like, but it's just like it has me feel like, I mean, I know that's like me. It's like it has me feel self-conscious about how I learn and process and interact with the world because like this one's like, whoo, she's 10 miles down the road. And I'm like, dang it.
But also, that is, how I am, learning you and learning to be in healthy relationship with you. It also, in knowing that, it feels less jarring for you to bring it up later. And this is like a new development too, by the way, y'all. Like like it does feel less jarring now than it did, because now I know that, right? Like I'm starting to get used to that. Although it does make me feel very uncomfortable. It is extremely challenging for me. But I also know that it won't always be that way. Like, I know that I'm uncomfortable and it's challenging right now. But as we continue to, operate in partnership, I will get more used to that. Like, and I'm also telling you this, like, I will get more used to that. because, that is how I learn. It's just like, okay, like now I'm having this experience and now I know this thing and now So as I learn and grow in this relationship, then that will be like normal, where it's like, oh, okay, a thing happened. We can't talk about it right now because Lee needs 3 days to process. All right, I'm going to put this on a shelf. That does spike my anxiety, but that's also something I'm working on. But again, just like noticing all of those things for you. So it's not just, what we've been talking about so far is like how you work as an individual and understanding that about yourself. But then adding that to a partnership is then that new layer of curiosity of like, okay, I know that this is how I work. This is how they work. This is how I'm responding to or reacting to, or this is what's getting triggered for me, or just, all of that. So like, again, just, it's like a new level of integrity, new level of awareness in adding a relationship into that too. Yeah. So it's like learning a dance. It's like learning choreography. You're not just learning a move, like a dance move. Like you're learning how to do the dance and multiple moves and how they flow together and how you move and work. And then when you add partner dancing into that, now you have to incorporate that, like how this person moves, how they work, like how they understand the dance, like etc. And it's not like one person's way of dancing is better than the other person's way of dancing. It's just different, and now you're learning how to coordinate together. Right? Yeah. Oh man, anything else you want to say about healthy feedback? Giving and receiving healthy feedback?
No, I'll think about it in 3 days.
Excellent. Yeah, I think a lot of it, to summarize, it comes down to awareness of yourself, taking blame and shame off of yourself, off of your partner, off of the relationship, like really trying to come forward with curiosity, and understanding that there are different ways that you react and respond to things, and there are different ways that your partner reacts and responds to things, and that it's something that you can learn. There's nothing good or bad about it. But it is something that you can learn about yourself and about the other person, and you can coordinate with them. And it takes time. And that's okay.
Just create a little box for feedback forms.
Create a Google form.
You can do a Google form, just old school box.
I actually do, and again, no shame, no shame on anybody, because, that could work for some people. Like, hey, we can have a partner, Google form, feedback shindig thingamajiggy. And
Yeah, no, I mean, I know people do it, not necessarily for feedback in the sense of like gratitude or this like made me happy or whatever, like literally a box, like with
that's
a little
cute.
slit. Yeah, I had some clients that created that, and I was like, dude, go for it.
Yeah, get creative.
But it's like, oh, you have the little, and it was like by their door or whatever, and it was like, oh, and then they would go through, at whatever, however, I think it was like every week or every other week or something. And then it was
cute.
like, oh yeah, and it's nice because it's like, maybe they didn't get to like it's like all the things they didn't get to express, right? Like maybe you left and I saw that you had cleaned this thing, and so I dropped it in there or whatever, and so like a week later we're reading through like, oh, I really love that you did this thing, and you're like, oh my god, I totally forgot if it did that or whatever. But it's just more noticing the different elements that stand out to a person, right? Because that's what feedback is, like, this is what's standing out, whether in a positive or not sense. But yeah, I mean, it's just really like you're just understanding more around like what helps and doesn't.
Yeah. And also understanding like the deeper layers of that. That's also where the curiosity comes from. Like, why does this thing bother me actually? Because that's the other thing that I see in relationships where people get tripped up, is that they're like, well, this thing bothers me, and so now everyone who I'm ever in relationship with needs to know that and avoid that. Instead of, this thing bothers me. Why does it bother me? What do I need around this? Are there ways in which I could lessen the charge of that thing bothering me? Like, what is my responsibility in having this trigger? And also, letting people know, like, hey, this thing is a trigger for me, or this thing bothers me, or this is what I need around this, But I think I guess this is coming up for me as like the unhealthy category. So go back to that for just a second, which is just like, and I think that just goes into like blame. It's just like, oh, well, if other people just did everything around me that worked, then I wouldn't get upset.
Right.
And that's putting your experience on other people's actions instead of taking responsibility for your own experience and why you get upset about something. Yeah. So it's both. Cool. Random thoughts.
All related.
All related. Anything else? Anything else that you want to share?
No. Thanks for listening to our feedback.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to our feedback about feedback.
Speaking of feedback.
Yes, go.
Give us 5 stars.
Yeah. Rate and review this podcast. Thank you. Give us 5 stars. But for real, it really does help actually when you rate and review the podcast. So if you enjoyed this episode, please do that. If you've been listening for a while, please do that. Thank you so much. And if you are wanting to get support or coaching around your relationship, giving feedback, if you're having a challenging time and you've run out of tools, or the tools that you are using are not working or not working as well as you would like them to, then reach out to us. There is a way to contact us in the description of this video, whether wherever you're listening to this or watching this. So scroll down, hit that link, get in contact with us. We would love to work with you and support you.
5 stars.
All right, loves. We love you so much.
Love you. Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Queer Love Podcast. We would love to hear from you. Drop us a line on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter at Queer Love Relationships, or email us at queerloverelationships@gmail.com.
If you are interested in working with us, follow the Linktree link in the show notes. See if our offers resonate with you, and if they do, sign up with us or book a discovery session.
We are so grateful that you're here, listening, learning, and growing with us.
Until next time, keep loving.